Happy November 1st, everyone. And just like that, Cybersecurity Awareness Month for 2025 is officially over.
Yeah, wrapped up for another year.
But if you were thinking the time for worrying about cyber threats is done, now October's finished, well, think again.
Definitely not. If anything, it's just getting started.
We're really standing right on the edge of 2026, and the threat landscape, it feels different. It feels like it's less about the predictable stuff, the old tricks we should have fixed by now, and way more about these profound AI-fueled threats.
Threats that are changing everything.
Exactly. They're actively redefining what we even consider real financially, politically. It's kind of unsettling. So that's why we're framing this deep dive as your, essential personal cybersecurity survival guide for the year ahead. We really need to cut through all the noise.
There's so much noise out there.
Right. And figure out how to separate this, the trick, those older, predictable vulnerabilities from the serious incoming threat, the stuff that can genuinely mess up our personal and digital lives. Our mission today really is to take this mountain of information insights from security experts, government strategic plans like CISOs for 25 and 26, the latest deepfake research, personal data guides, and kind of synthesize it all.
Make sense of it.
Yeah, make sense of it. We want to reduce that feeling of being overwhelmed by all this cyber info overload and just leave you, our listener, quickly and thoroughly informed, ready for what's coming. Before we jump right in, though, we absolutely have to give a huge thank you to our sponsor. They've supported this month's awareness efforts and made this whole deep dive possible.
Absolutely.
There are key players across the board in cyber defense providing market support at www.cisomarketplace.com and cisomarketplace.services, offering critical security tools through www.microsec.tools.
Good tools there.
And they foster deep industry discussion on their podcast at podcast.cisomarketplace.com, plus document the cyber war blogs over at www.threatwatch.news. So really, thank you for making this analysis possible.
Yeah, big thanks. And, the information we've pulled together for today, it really hammers home the gravity of this shift we're seeing. The urgency is, it's palpable.
Yeah.
Because the stakes, they've fundamentally changed. We're not really talking anymore about attackers needing complex 0 days to break through layers of firewalls. That still happens, of course, but
that's not the main game anymore.
Right. The sources are clear. The most successful, the most scalable threats today involve adversaries simply logging in. They use stolen or compromised credentials. That's it.
Just logging in.
This whole shift where your identity itself becomes the target and the perimeter, that's probably the single most important idea you need to internalize for effective defense heading into 2026.
Okay, let's try and unpack that because it's frustrating, right? We hear about billions, billions of dollars spent globally every single year. Endpoint detection, next-gen firewalls, fancy AI behavioral analysis tools.
Those shiny objects.
Exactly. And yet the conversation, again and again, circles right back to the simplest point of failure. The password. Why? Why, after all that investment, is identity still the cheapest, easiest way in for the bad guys?
It's an economic issue just as much as a tech one. We keep talking about it because, honestly, identities are still the most common and, crucially, the most successfully exploited attack vector.
Still, after all this time.
Still. The industry stats are just damning. Report after report shows that over 70% of breaches involve the misuse of identities.
70%, yeah.
That means credential theft, successful phishing, abusing privileged accounts. It means 7 times out of 10, the hackers didn't really hack the system in the traditional sense. They just walked in the front door using a key they found or tricked someone into giving them. They logged in. And the way we work now has just poured gasoline on this fire. The massive shift to cloud, SaaS apps everywhere, remote work being permanent for so many.
The old boundaries are gone.
Totally gone. The old idea of a network boundary, a firewall protecting everything inside, irrelevant for most attacks. The new perimeter is every user login, every device hitting those cloud services, every single application endpoint.
So the attackers just focus there?
They focus there because it works. Identity-based attacks are cheap for them, they scale incredibly well, and this is the kicker, they often look just like normal authorized network activity.
So they blend in.
Perfectly. Your traditional security tools, they're trained to spot intrusions, anomalies, malware signatures. They really struggle to spot a perfectly legitimate login that just happens to be malicious. It's a tough problem.
Okay, so if the main problem is someone logging in with a stolen credential, the first obvious defense has to be making that stolen credential useless. That brings us to what we're calling core survival step 1, Multi-factor authentication,
Oh,
MFA.
MFA, yeah. Or 2FA, TFA, whatever you want to call it.
Right. We usually define it with that something you know plus something you have idea, password plus phone, or USB key, or fingerprint. We've heard this for years, but what makes it so critical specifically for 2026? Is it just more important now?
It is, actually.
Hmm.
Its importance has genuinely increased, mainly because of the sheer scale of password reuse and all the data leaks happening constantly.
Right. The breaches are relentless.
Exactly. So even if you use a strong, unique password for, say, your bank, maybe that same password was used on some random forum that got breached 5 years ago. That password is now out there on the dark web in massive lists.
And the attackers just try it everywhere.
They automate trying it everywhere. So if you reuse that password on a critical account, your bank, main email, work, login, MFA is what stops them cold. They might have the password they bought or found.
But they don't have your phone or your fingerprint.
Exactly. They lack the something you have, that physical authenticator. It blocks that whole attack chain right there. And we need to be clear, the shift isn't just about getting codes texted to your phone anymore.
Oh, because those can be intercepted, right? SIM swapping.
Precisely. SIM swapping is a real threat.
Yeah.
So the industry is rapidly moving towards stronger hardware-backed methods. The gold standard, really, for 2026 and beyond is moving past even traditional MFA towards technologies like FIDO2, and specifically passkeys.
Passkeys. I've been hearing more about those.
You should be. Passkeys essentially eliminate the password altogether. They replace it with cryptographic keys stored securely right on your device, your phone, your laptop.
How does that?
It makes phishing dramatically harder, almost impossible for many types of attacks, because there's no password to steal or trick you into revealing. The authentication happens securely between your device and the service. If you're serious about your security in 2026, start looking for and enabling passkeys wherever they're offered. Banks, major tech platforms, they're rolling out support now.
That sounds like a crucial step up. Okay, so if MFA, especially passkeys, is the necessary lock, we still need to talk about the key itself. Core survival step 2, password management. The reality is most people just cannot remember hundreds of unique, complex passwords.
No way. The human brain isn't built for that.
Which is exactly why password reuse is so dangerously common. So what makes a password manager the non-negotiable solution here?
It's non-negotiable because it takes that impossible burden off your brain and puts it onto software designed specifically for the task. A password manager basically stores all your different credentials, usernames, passwords, secure notes in a heavily encrypted digital vault.
Okay.
And that entire vault is protected by just one single, very strong master password. That's the only one you have to remember.
One strong one instead of hundreds of weak ones.
Exactly. And Manager generates those super long, random, complex passwords for all your sites automatically. You don't even need to see them, let alone remember them. The recommendation still stands. Strong passwords should be long, complex, random characters. And ideally, changed maybe twice a year. Though, honestly...
What's your unique everywhere?
Yeah, if you're using a manager and every single password is unique and strong, the urgency to change them frequently is a bit lower, provided that master password protecting the vault is incredibly strong and kept totally secret.
Okay, so tell me about the trust factor here. How secure are these manager vaults, really? We're putting all our digital keys in one basket.
That's the key question, right? Confidence comes from the tech details. Most reputable managers use AES 256 encryption. That's the advanced encryption standard with 256-bit keys. It's the same standard used by the U.S. government, the military, for top secret data. It's incredibly strong.
Military grade, okay.
But even more important for your trust as a listener is that they use what's called a zero-knowledge technique or zero-knowledge architecture.
Zero knowledge. Why is that specific architecture so critical for trusting a company with basically everything?
Because zero knowledge is the absolute foundation of that trust. It means that the company providing the password manager service, they cannot, under any circumstances, access your master password. They can't see it, they don't store it, they can't decrypt your vault contents.
So how does it work then?
All the encryption and decryption happens locally, right on your own device, using that master password you typed in. So even if the password manager company itself suffers a catastrophic breach Their servers get completely owned by hackers,
Which has happened.
which has unfortunately happened to some providers, yes. But even then, all the attackers get are these useless blobs of encrypted data. They don't have the key or master password because it was never sent to or stored on the company's servers in the first place.
Okay, that makes sense. It really is like a digital safety deposit box. They own the box, but only you have the key or the combination.
That's a perfect analogy and provides enormous peace of mind.
Our sources mention a few popular options. Remember, LastPass, 1Password, Bitwarden, LogMeOne's Keeper Security. So whether you like a browser plugin, a separate program, or just using the tools built into your phone or OS.
The crucial thing is to pick one and actually start using it consistently, everywhere.
Right. Okay, let's move to core survival step 3. This one often feels like, administrative work, but you're saying it's foundational. Software hygiene. Keeping your operating system and web browser updated. Why does hitting update now on Windows or iOS feel so urgent to security experts? What risk are we really managing there?
We're managing the risk of being exploited by known vulnerabilities. Think about how unbelievably complex modern software is. Your operating system, Windows, Mac OS, Android, iOS. It's not just one program. It's a massive ecosystem, hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of lines of code.
Mind-boggling complex.
Right. And every single line of that code is a potential place for a bug, a mistake, a security hole just waiting for someone to find it.
Someone malicious, usually.
Often, yes. When security researchers, or more often hackers, find these flaws, they can develop exploits, tools specifically designed to take advantage of that vulnerability. Sometimes these are found and used before the vendor even knows about them. Those are the infamous zero-day exploits. They can allow attackers to gain unauthorized access, install malware, ransomware, spyware, you name it.
So the updates are the fixes for those holes.
Exactly. Software developers are in this constant race against the clock to find those holes themselves and release patches, updates to fix them. But here's the critical part. That patch does absolutely nothing if you don't install it.
Right, it just sits there.
If you're running software that's, say, 6 months out of date, you are essentially leaving your digital front door wide open, maybe with a sign saying, hey, all those exploits discovered since last March, come on in. It's negligent.
So the recommendation is?
Enable automatic updates wherever possible. Windows 10 and 11, Mac OS, iOS, most modern Android devices, they all have robust automatic update features. Turn them on, especially for your web browser.
Why the browser specifically?
Because your browser is ground zero. It's the piece of software that interacts most directly with the untrusted internet all day long. It renders web pages, runs scripts. It's constantly exposed. Keeping your browser patched is absolutely paramount. Enabling those auto-updates is probably the single cheapest, most passive, yet highest impact security improvement anyone can make. Seriously.
Okay, so if stolen identities, compromised credentials, that's the easiest, most scalable threat right now, then deepfakes feel like where the threat landscape jumps to a whole different level, like sci-fi level sophistication and psychological impact.
It really is. This is where AI isn't just a tool for the attackers. It's actively challenging our basic ability to trust what we see and hear, our sense of verifiable reality.
This is where it gets, as I said, really interesting and maybe scary.
It is. You could call it the ultimate evolution of disinformation, maybe. A deepfake, as most people probably know by now, is synthetic media, video, images, audio, generated by sophisticated AI.
Deep learning models, right?
Yeah, typically using deep learning models like GAN's generative adversarial networks or VAEs, variational autoencoders. The name itself, deepfake, is just a mashup of deep learning and fake.
Makes sense.
But what's truly alarming here isn't just that the technology exists, it's the speed of its improvement. The velocity is incredible.
How fast are we talking?
Well, the core ideas aren't brand new. Things like video rewrite were being experimented with back in 1997. But the acceleration in, say, the last 5 to 7 years has been exponential. We saw projects like Face-to-Face in 2016, that real-time face capture and reenactment.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then Synthesizing Obama in 2017, where they convincingly mapped audio to video of him speaking. Those were watershed moments. After those, back in late 2019, some experts were already warning that truly indistinguishable deepfakes, ones you couldn't tell from genuine video, could be here in as little as half a year.
Half a year? Back in 2019?
Yeah. And we are now multiple generations of AI models past that prediction. We're operating today in a world where just looking at a video or listening to audio, it's simply not enough anymore to verify if it's real. Visual and auditory confirmation alone is insufficient.
Okay, let's ground this in reality. The financial implications.
Right.
They're staggering, right? This isn't just about fake celebrity videos or minor online pranks anymore. How big is the deepfake fraud problem right now?
It's already huge, and the trend line is, frankly, terrifying. Current estimates suggest deepfake scams are responsible for something like $12 billion with a B in fraud losses globally right now.
$12 billion. Wow.
But that's just the starting point. The projections, based on the current growth rate, reports are forecasting that number could reach a stunning $40 billion in fraud losses over just the next 3 years.
40 billion from fake videos and audio.
Primarily, yes. Voice cloning for fraudulent wire transfers, fake video calls to authorize payments, manipulating stock prices with fake executive statements. It's not a theoretical future threat. It's an explosive, highly scalable financial weapon being deployed now, globally.
And we saw a really high-profile example of this just last year in 2024, that targeted attack against a Ferrari executive. That case seems like a perfect illustration of how the threat has shifted.
Oh, absolutely. The Ferrari case is textbook. It's classic identity abuse, pretending to be someone powerful, layered with sophisticated synthetic media capability to make it convincing.
Walk us through it again briefly.
Sure. An executive at Ferrari received a series of urgent WhatsApp messages. They looked like they were coming directly from the CEO, Benedetto Vigna.
Okay.
The messages described a major, top-secret acquisition deal. They demanded immediate action from the executive and stressed utmost discretion. Don't talk to anyone. This is critical, time-sensitive. All the classic social engineering triggers.
Creating urgency and isolation.
Yeah. Exactly. Flawless social engineering. Now, the executive got lucky. It was just very sharp. They noticed the phone number, and the profile picture used in WhatsApp seemed unfamiliar. That was the first crack.
A small detail, but crucial.
Crucial. But their real defensive masterstroke was demanding an out-of-band verification that couldn't be easily faked. They asked a very specific, probing question about a book the real CEO had recently recommended to them in person. Something personal, not public knowledge.
Ah, a semantic password almost.
Precisely. Something only the real Vigna would know instantly. The scammer, who was likely using an automated script or maybe even a live operator following a playbook, but without the real CEO's full knowledge base.
They couldn't answer.
And the whole thing collapsed.
The deception just fell apart. It shows so clearly. The attack wasn't about hacking Ferrari's IT systems. It was about exploiting trust. Trust built on potentially faked visual or auditory confirmation, combined with a psychological manipulation. Okay, so if we zoom out from that specific case, connect this to the bigger picture. The threat here isn't just about people losing money, as terrible as that is. Deepfakes attack something more fundamental, don't they?
They absolutely do. They introduce something far more corrosive. They threaten the basic credibility of information itself. They risk creating a societal crisis where our fundamental trust in any content, video, audio, even text just erodes completely.
That sounds apocalyptic.
Well, academics often call it the potential for an epistemological crisis. Epistemology is the study of knowledge, how we know what we know. If deepfakes become pervasive and undetectable, how can we know if anything we see or hear corresponds to actual reality? How can we determine truth?
Right, if any video can be faked.
Then any real video can be dismissed as fake. Deepfakes are the perfect tool for disinformation campaigns because they sow doubt, they undermine faith in journalism, in institutions, in evidence itself. If you can just wave away inconvenient footage of, say, a politician's controversial statement or a documented event by yelling deepfake, then democratic debate, which relies on some shared understanding of facts, it starts to break down.
And we've already seen these tools used pretty aggressively in the political arena, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. The uses evolved really quickly from just crude satire to outright malicious interference and deception.
Like what?
Well, historically, you had simpler face swaps used for, political cartoons, like replacing Argentina's Mauricio Macri with Hitler or Merkel with Trump. Crude, but maybe identifiable. But the capability now is being used for pure deception.
More recent examples.
We saw a really high-profile one in July 2025. A video surfaced, I think it was on Truth Social, that appeared to show former President Barack Obama being arrested, physically restrained, and imprisoned right there at the White House.
Wow, that's bold.
Completely fabricated, obviously. Pure fiction designed solely to inflame, confuse, and sow political discord among viewers who might be predisposed to believe it, or at least question what's real.
And be just outright fake news.
We're also seeing deep fakes used for incredibly scalable, hyper-localized influence campaigns. Look at India's state assembly elections back in March 2024. Candidates were using AI-generated deep fakes, voice cloning, and lip syncing to instantly translate their campaign speeches into dozens of different regional languages and dialects.
So one speech reaches everyone in their own language.
Exactly. It allowed them to connect with massive, linguistically diverse populations in a way that felt much more personal and intimate than subtitles or dubbing ever could. That's a huge and potentially really destabilizing shift in how electioneering is done. Persuasion at scale using synthetic intimacy.
That's a powerful concept. And we also have to mention the personal harm aspect, particularly non-consensual pornography.
Yes, it's absolutely vital to acknowledge that. While financial and political impacts get headlines, the most common and arguably most damaging use of deepfake tech today is still the creation and distribution of non-consensual deepfake pornography. And the targets are overwhelmingly women, LGBT individuals, and people of color, especially activists or politicians within those groups. It's used as a tool of harassment, intimidation, and silencing. That harm is real and devastating.
Okay, so reality itself is becoming malleable, questionable. What practical personal countermeasures can you, the listener, actually employ right now against this wave of synthetic media? It feels a bit hopeless.
It can feel that way, but it's not hopeless. The absolute foundation of defense here is good old-fashioned media literacy and, frankly, a healthy dose of hyper-skepticism.
Assume it might be fake.
Pretty much. You have to operate with a default assumption that anything presented to you digitally, especially if it's emotionally charged, highly provocative, or demanding urgent action, is questionable until you can verify it through a second, independent, trusted source. Don't just react, investigate.
Okay, critical thinking first. What about in real-time situations, like a video call?
Right. For live interactions, there are still some giveaways, at least with the current generation of deepfake tech. As we mentioned earlier, these models sometimes still struggle with rendering consistent, natural-looking movement from different angles, particularly profile views.
The turning sideways trick.
Exactly. It sounds simple, maybe even a bit silly, but it can work. If you're on an important video call, maybe with your bank or a potential employer, or even someone claiming to be a colleague asking for something sensitive and something just feels off, ask them politely to turn their head fully to the side for a moment.
And look for
glitches.
Yeah.
Does the ear look weird? Does the lighting on the side of the face match the front? Does the hairline shimmer or distort? Does the background behind them remain stable? Or do they just make an awkward excuse not to turn? Any inconsistency or refusal is a massive red flag. Bail out of the call and verify through a known, trusted channel, like calling back on an official phone number.
Good practical tip. What about in the workplace? How can organizations protect themselves and their employees from, say, deepfake-driven fraud attempts?
Education is key, obviously, making sure employees understand this threat exists. But beyond awareness, organizations need to implement specific protocols for any high-stakes communication or transaction.
Like what kind of protocols?
Think about establishing pre-agreed-upon code words, or semantic passwords, or secret challenge questions, just like that Ferrari executive used with the book question. These should be things exchanged securely beforehand, outside of digital channels if possible. Before any critical action is taken, or sensitive data is shared, or especially before any money is moved based on a digital request, that verbal confirmation using the secret question or code word must happen, ideally over a known, trusted phone line or in person. It adds a layer of verification that current deepfakes can't easily bypass.
Okay, we've spent a good chunk of time detailing the attacks, from the straightforwardness of credential theft to the, frankly, mind-bending reality of deepfakes. Now let's zoom out. Let's look at the institutional response. How are the big players, the organizations, fighting back? And specifically, how are they starting to use AI defensively to counter these very same AI-powered threats? It really does feel like a tech arms race.
It is absolutely an arms race, no question. And the security reports coming out of 2025 paint a picture of significant asymmetry right now. The attackers are adopting and weaponizing AI tools extremely rapidly.
Faster than the defenders.
It seems that way, or at least the defenders feel that way. Nearly three-quarters, 74% of organizations surveyed said they are already feeling a significant impact from AI-powered threats hitting them today.
74%. That's huge.
It is. And this intense pressure is creating what the sources are calling a very clear confidence gap within security teams.
A confidence gap, meaning they don't feel ready.
Exactly. It's quite pervasive. Only 18% less than 1 in 5 of the cybersecurity professionals surveyed express strong confidence in their own organization's readiness to actually defend against these sophisticated AI-driven attacks.
Only 18%. That's worrying.
It is. And even more broadly, 45% still feel outright unprepared. 45%. That's nearly half saying, we're not ready for this.
Wow.
And this skepticism, it isn't just about the brand new AI threats. It's actually eroding faith in their existing traditional security tools, too. About half of all the participants reported being less than significantly confident that their current non-AI-based systems can even reliably detect these new, often very subtle AI-powered threats.
So the old tools aren't cutting it against the new attack.
That's the growing fear. But the good news is AI isn't just for the attackers, right? We're seeing a parallel explosion in the adoption and development of defensive AI.
Okay, so where do the defenders see AI helping them the most? What's its biggest potential?
They see it primarily as essential for dealing with the sheer scale and speed of modern attacks. A massive 95% of cybersecurity pros agree that AI can significantly improve their defense efficiency and, critically, their response speed, catching things faster.
Makes sense. Where specifically?
The number one expected impact, the top priority for defensive AI, is improving the detection of entirely new or previously unknown threats, the 0 days, novel malware variants.
How does AI help with unknown threats?
Well, traditional systems mostly rely on signatures looking for patterns of attacks they already know about. Defensive AI, particularly machine learning, works differently. It learns a baseline of what normal activity looks like in your specific environment, network traffic, user behavior, data access patterns. Then it flags significant deviations from that baseline, even if it's never seen that exact type of attack before. It spots the anomaly, the suspicious behavior itself.
So it's looking for weirdness, not just known badness.
Exactly. That's crucial for spotting novel AI-driven malware or sophisticated identity abuses or insider threats that try really hard to mimic normal activity.
What other areas are big for defensive AI?
Beyond just general threat detection, organizations expect huge gains in cloud security, about 66% cited the cloud specifically, and also network security, around 55%.
Why cloud and network?
Defensive AI is almost uniquely suited for modern cloud environments. You've got these massive, dynamic, often short-lived workloads generating millions of data points. AI can analyze that fire hose of data, identify threats operating too quickly or too subtly for human analysts to catch things like attackers moving laterally between cloud accounts or complex credential stuffing campaigns hitting multiple services at once.
And things like behavioral biometrics. Is that AI too?
Absolutely. That's a key area. AI can learn your unique typing rhythm, how you move your mouse, even the subtle linguistic patterns in how you write emails or code. If someone else logs in as you, even with the right password, the AI can flag that the behavior is wrong. It's another layer beyond just the credential.
Okay, interesting. And we're also seeing clear preferences emerge in how companies want to buy and use these AI defense tools, right? They're moving away from just collecting lots of separate point solutions.
Yes, that preference is overwhelming in the surveys. Around 89% of organizations said they prefer integrated, platform-based defensive solutions. They want systems that talk to each other, share intelligence, provide a single pane of glass view, rather than trying to stitch together a patchwork of a dozen different siloed tools. They're seeking efficiency and consolidated visibility.
Makes sense. Less complexity.
Right. And this next point is really vital, especially regarding trust and data privacy. 84%, a very strong majority, prefer defensive AI solutions that do not require their own sensitive organizational data to be shared externally.
Meaning they don't want their data feeding some giant global AI model.
Exactly. They don't want their internal logs, network traffic, user data going off to train some third-party large language model, for example. They want the benefits of AI analysis, but they want it running securely within their own perimeter, keeping their crown jewels, their operational data, safely under their control. That's a huge consideration for vendors developing these tools.
Okay, so that defensive posture from industry, wanting integrated tools, keeping data internal, that seems to align pretty directly with the kind of strategic thinking we're seeing from governments globally. Let's talk about CISA's strategic outlook for 2025-2026. CISA being the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. This isn't just about the U.S., though, is it? It looks more like a global blueprint.
It really is. You have
Yeah.
to understand, CISA's International Strategic Plan explicitly recognizes that cyber risks are inherently borderless. An attack originating in one country can instantly cripple infrastructure in another. So their strategy lays out three really core goals for international engagement.
What's the first one?
The first goal is maybe counterintuitive, but critical for global stability. Goal one is to bolster the resilience of foreign infrastructure on which the U.S. depends.
Interesting. Why is CISA, a U.S. agency, focusing so heavily on foreign infrastructure?
Because of deep, unavoidable interdependence. Think about it. U.S. critical infrastructure, our energy grids, oil and gas pipelines, telecommunications networks, complex manufacturing supply chains, they are all deeply interwoven with systems, suppliers, and components located in other countries.
Ah, the supply chain issue again.
Exactly. A cyber attack that takes out a key foreign energy supplier or compromises a critical software vendor overseas can have immediate, cascading, and potentially devastating effects right here in the U.S. So CISA is now actively prioritizing identifying those absolutely critical foreign dependencies and working directly with international partners to manage that shared risk together. Defense is now understood as a globally shared responsibility, not just a national one.
Okay, so that makes sense. Identify and shore up global weak points we rely on. What's goal two?
Goal 2 is about building the plumbing for that collaboration. Strengthen integrated cyber defense. This really means maturing CISA's network of trusted global partners. Primarily, this happens through what they call CRT, CSART engagements.
CRCSR.
Computer Security Incident Response Team to Computer Security Incident Response Team collaboration. Basically, getting the national cyber defense teams from different allied countries working together much more closely and operationally.
So moving beyond just diplomatic agreements.
Precisely. The goal is to get into the rapid, near real-time sharing of actionable operational intelligence. That means immediate vulnerability alerts, instant disclosure of the specific tactics, techniques, and procedures, the TTPs being used by known state-sponsored hacking groups, shared analysis of new malware strains as they emerge. The idea is to dramatically improve the collective cyber situational awareness for everyone involved, worldwide. See the attack once, share the defense instantly.
Got it. Faster sharing, better collective defense. Now, beyond building these partnerships, CISA is also focusing really heavily on driving global standards, right? Pushing for certain security practices to become universal, especially for critical stuff. This includes two terms our listeners might hear more about: secure by design and software bills of materials, or SBOMs. Can you break those down? Why are they pushing these so hard?
Yes, this is arguably the most significant long-term strategic shift CISA is driving. They are strongly encouraging, and in some areas, starting to mandate for government suppliers the widespread adoption of secure by design principles.
Secure by design. What does that mean in practice?
It means that security shouldn't be an afterthought, something bolted on or patched in after a product is already built and shipped. Instead, security considerations, threat modeling, vulnerability management, secure coding practices must be an inherent, fundamental part of the product development lifecycle, right from the very beginning, from the initial design phase.
So building security and not adding it on.
Exactly. It fundamentally shifts the responsibility for security. Instead of the burden falling entirely on the end user or the IT department to configure things securely or apply endless patches, Secure by Design puts more onus back on the vendor, the manufacturer, to ship products that are reasonably secure out of the box.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the second one? SBOMs. Software bills of materials. That sounds like something from manufacturing.
It's a direct analogy. Think of an SBOM as basically the official ingredient list for a piece of software. Modern software, especially large applications or operating systems, isn't built from scratch. It's assembled using hundreds, sometimes thousands of different components, third-party libraries, open-source code modules, bits and pieces from various suppliers.
Like building with digital Lego bricks.
Kind of, yeah. And the problem is, if just one of those underlying components, one of those ingredients, turns out to have a serious vulnerability, like the Log4j crisis a few years back.
Oh yeah, that was messy.
It was a nightmare, because organizations didn't even know if they were using the vulnerable component, buried deep inside dozens of different applications across their network. And SPM directly addresses this. By requiring vendors to provide a detailed, standardized list of all the components included in their software, CISO wants to create transparency throughout the entire software supply chain.
So you can quickly see if you're affected when a new vulnerability pops up.
Precisely. When a vulnerability is discovered in, say, OpenSSL or some other common library, organizations with SPMs for their software can instantly check the list and know exactly which systems are exposed and need patching, rather than spending weeks just trying to figure out where the problem even exists. It's absolutely crucial for managing modern software supply chain risk at scale. And CISA is pushing hard for global adoption.
Okay, that institutional push for things like secure by design and SBOMs, that offers some real hope for a more secure future built by vendors. But let's bring it right back down to the individual listening today. Because even if we do everything right with MFA and strong passwords, our existing digital footprint, all the data already out there about us, that remains a huge vulnerability, right?
A massive vulnerability. That's the unfortunate reality we all live with. Vast amounts of our private, personally identifiable information, our names, current and past addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, purchase histories, family members' names, sometimes even estimated income levels or property values.
Very sad.
It's already been collected, aggregated, cross-referenced, and packaged up by hundreds of companies known as data brokers.
And they just sell this data.
That's their entire business model. They scrape public records, buy marketing lists, track online behavior, and compile these incredibly detailed profiles on millions of people, often without our explicit knowledge or any easy way for us to see what they have or opt out. And then they sell access to this data for profit to marketers, background check companies, sometimes even to individuals.
So if trying to remove your data manually means finding and contacting hundreds of these often obscure brokers, filing requests, following up, which sounds like a full-time job.
It basically is impossible for an individual to do effectively on their own. The data just reappears, or new brokers pop up. It's whack-a-mole.
So what's the personal solution then? How can we fight back against this?
Well, the market has responded, thankfully. There are now dedicated data removal services. These are companies that offer automated tools and services specifically designed to handle that tedious, frustrating process of cleaning up your digital past, or at least reducing your exposure.
How do they actually work? Do they just ask nicely?
No, not usually. They automate the process of finding the brokers that likely hold your data, and then setting out official opt-out and deletion requests on your behalf, citing the relevant privacy laws that give you that right.
So they use legal leverage.
Exactly. They rely heavily on the growing patchwork of privacy legislation around the world. In the U.S., the most powerful state law is often the California Consumer Privacy Act, the CCPA, which grants Californians rights like deletion and opting out of sale, and many services leverage that even for non-Californians. In Europe, of course, there's the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, which is even stronger.
So these services act like your legal agent?
Essentially, yes. They act as your proxy, using the specific language and invoking the authority of these laws to enforce your removal requests much more efficiently and systematically than you could alone. And crucially, many of them monitor continuously and resubmit requests periodically because data brokers often try to re-add data after it's been removed.
Okay, that makes sense. Automation plus legal muscle. We looked at a few examples highlighted in our sources for listeners to consider. Let's start with the one often cited as the best overall choice.
Yeah, that seems to frequently be Incogni. It gets highlighted for its really high degree of automation and its efficiency. Incogni's main strength seems to be aggressively leveraging those global privacy laws, GDPR, CCPA, PIPEDA in Canada, etc., to target a very wide array of data brokers, hundreds of them.
And people see real results.
Users often report a noticeable reduction in things like spam calls, junk mail, and targeted marketing emails after using it for a while, which is a nice tangible benefit beyond just the background security improvement.
Okay, Incogni for automation.
Yeah.
Then there's Delete Me, which is often recognized for being particularly user-friendly.
Right. Delete Me gets praise for its ease of use, its clear reporting on what's been found and removed, and also for maintaining a significant human element in its process.
Human element? How so?
While a lot is automated, Delete Me apparently still uses human agents for handling more complex removal requests or dealing with stubborn brokers. They also focus on targeting many of the really big public-facing people search sites like White Pages, Spokeo, Been Verified, the ones where anyone can just type in your name and find your address. So it's often seen as a great option if you prioritize thoroughness on those major sites and appreciate that human touch in the service.
Gotcha. And finally, Privacy Bee. Our sources indicated this one offers some more enhanced protection features.
Yeah, Privacy Bee positions itself as going a bit beyond just reactive data removal. While it does handle the deletion requests under CCPA and GDPR like the others, it also offers more proactive tools.
Right.
For example, they have a browser extension that actively monitors your data relationships with the websites you visit in real time. It can help you manage tracking permissions and potentially block data sharing as it happens. They also offer other interesting features, like requesting the blurring of your house on digital maps, like Google Street View, which is a neat physical security measure integrated into their digital privacy suite. So Privacy Bee seems geared towards users who want maximum ongoing control and visibility over their digital presence, not just a one-time cleanup.
Okay, so several options there depending on your priorities. Automation, user-friendliness, or proactive features. We've covered prevention, MFA, passwords. We've covered cleanup, data removal. But let's face the hard truth. Despite all these precautions, big data breaches are still going to happen. Huge companies we trust will leak our information. Identity theft is still going to be a serious risk. If all else fails, what's the single most critical final step you should take for personal risk mitigation? The last line of defense.
You're right, breaches are inevitable for most people. So the single most critical action, the absolute bottom line, is to focus squarely on preventing the financial damage that results from identity theft, even if your data gets stolen.
Okay, preventing the damage. How?
It's really a two-pronged approach. First, you need visibility. You should be checking your credit report regularly. You're entitled to a free copy from each of the three major bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, every single year. The official site for that is annualcreditreport.com.
Annualcreditreport.com. Got it. What are we looking for?
Look meticulously through every single account listed. Are there any small store cards, credit lines, utility accounts, even minor loans that you absolutely did not open? Identity thieves often start small, opening minor accounts to test the validity of stolen data before going for bigger targets. Spotting those anomalies early is crucial.
Okay, check reports annually. What's the second problem? This sounds like the really important one.
It is. The second prong, and this is far superior to just signing up for basic fraud alerts or identity monitoring services, is to proactively implement a credit freeze, sometimes called a security freeze.
A credit freeze. Explain that.
A credit freeze is a simple, free process mandated by federal law now that you initiate separately with each of the three major credit bureaus. Once frozen, your credit report is essentially locked down. It prevents almost anyone from accessing your credit file unless you explicitly authorize it by temporarily thawing the freeze using a unique PIN or password they give you.
So how does that stop identity theft?
Think about it. If a thief gets your stolen Social Security number and all your personal details and they try to open a new credit card or get a loan in your name, what's the first thing the lender does?
They check your credit report.
Exactly. But if your report is frozen, the lender cannot pull the report. They get blocked. And if they can't check your credit history, they will almost always deny the application on the spot. Poof, the transaction's automatically denied.
Wow, so it just stops them cold at the point of application?
It completely neutralizes the vast majority of financial identity theft attempts that involve opening new accounts. Even if the thief has your full data profile, they can't use it to get new credit in your name because the door is locked. It's the single most powerful defensive tool an individual has against financial identity theft, and everyone should seriously consider putting freezes in place. You can still easily thaw them temporarily when you need to apply for credit yourself. #TagOutTrey.
Okay, this has been a really intensive, hopefully helpful, deep dive into the cybersecurity threats looming as we head into 2026. If you listening right now take away only 2 core actions from our entire discussion today, maybe let them be these. First, remember your identity is the attack key now. Assume your passwords can and probably will be stolen eventually. Protect every single important online account with multi-factor authentication and really start looking into it, adopting modern passkeys wherever they're available. Back that up with strong, unique passwords for everything else, generated and stored securely in a reputable, zero-knowledge password manager. Don't reuse passwords.
Absolutely critical. And second, please recognize that synthetic media, deepfakes, they are fundamentally changing our information landscape and are already responsible for billions, soon tens of billions, in fraud losses globally. You must employ advanced critical thinking and develop that healthy media literacy skepticism we talked about. Don't instantly trust. Always verify. And don't hesitate to use those simple detection cues in real time, like asking a suspicious video caller to turn their head sideways. It might feel awkward, but it could save you.
Yeah.
And remember what we said at the start. Security isn't a one-time fix. It's a continuous, multi-layered effort. Knowledge, like we shared today, is really only valuable when you understand it and then actually apply it in your daily life.
Well said.
You know, this brings up one final, maybe provocative thought that kind of connects everything we've discussed, from your personal defenses right up to that global CISO strategy.
Oh, well.
We spent a good amount of time detailing how governments, led by agencies like CISO, are now really leaning in hard, focusing heavily on mandating essential security practices like secure by design and requiring software bills of materials for critical infrastructure systems. They're doing this because the stakes are so high. If a pipeline gets hacked, if the power grid goes down,
lives could be at risk.
Yeah.
Massive disruption.
Exactly. They're forcing vendors in those critical sectors to build safety and security into their products right from the very beginning, shifting that responsibility. But here's the question.
Yeah.
If personal identity theft, financial fraud driven by deepfakes, and the erosion of trust are collectively causing tens of billions of dollars in losses annually, disrupting lives and creating genuine societal crises,
Hmm.
how long will it be, or maybe how long should it be, before we, as consumers, start demanding that exact same level of secure by default design? That same level of accountability from the vendors of our everyday apps, our smart home devices, our social media platforms.
Hmm. So demanding that Facebook or Google or our smart fridge manufacturer has to be secure by design, just like a pipeline operator.
Why not? Why shouldn't the companies whose products handle our most sensitive personal data, mediate our communications, and shape our perception of reality be held to a standard where they have to protect our data and our identity proactively, by design, rather than just reactively after the next massive breach or wave of scams?
That is a really powerful question to end on. When does consumer demand force that shift in everyday tech?
That's the critical shift in expectation maybe we all should be thinking about and pushing for as we navigate 2026. Definitely something to mull over.
Indeed. All right, that is it for this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us as we analyze the sources, tried to unpack these complex risks, and hopefully helped you prepare a little better for the future.
Thanks for listening.
We hope you'll continue your learning journey with us again soon.